Breaking Barriers is brought to you by Pioneer. Get higher yield potential, more pest protection, and more flexibility with Pioneer brand PowerCore Enlist corn. Plant PowerCore Enlist corn in the 100th year of Pioneer. And by Estes XPR3 Concaves. More grain, less fuel, real ROI. Learn how to optimize your combine at EstesPerformanceConcaves.com. Welcome to Breaking Barriers with R&D, your direct line to Randy Dowdy and David Hula, here to help fellow farmers unlock the potential in their fields. Are you looking to implement best practices that maximize ROI? You've come to the right place. Real value, real yield, real ROI. Breaking Barriers with R&D starts now.
Well, welcome to another episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. And we also got a special guest there from Pioneer, Gabe Bathen, and we'll introduce him and talk to him a little bit later on, particularly about the century of innovation stuff that Pioneer is doing, celebrating their 100th year. So, Dowdy, can you imagine being around for 100 years?
There's some mornings I feel like I'm 100, but I'm about a little over half of that. Today's actually my birthday, so I'm getting old, David. The old gray bear ain't what he used to be.
Yeah. Well, isn't there a song? I think there's a song about doing one thing right, not doing a whole bunch, but I feel the same thing. Well, before we get on that, Estes is also a sponsor today, but I got back from Minot, North Dakota. Dowdy, they were over the century mark on temperatures yesterday. They were 103. That's not usual, customary in Minot, North Dakota, but I landed in Richmond about 12:30, 45-minute drive, shower, got up at 5 o'clock to go get some skin cancer removed this morning. And, nothing wrong with when they catch all that stuff early. So if I ever give anybody a piece of advice, I'm a guy that used to not ever go to doctors, but after prostate cancer and now this, it's not so bad. And I know you've been through this as well.
Oh yeah. Had open heart surgery unexpectedly, and supposedly they got me where I can maybe endure my stress a little bit better for a little bit longer. But for sure, we have had the skin cancer. We went the radiation route, and it is not fun for sure. I went to Emory for several visits, but we got to take care of our bodies for sure. I got loved ones that want to see us around. General public may not care one way or the other, but we got some loved ones that want to be around. So, David, I'm in Michigan. We've been planting hard as we can go, getting ready for the fall. Put in a new pivot. I think we picked up 16 dump trailer loads, 16-foot dump trailers of roots the last week. And I ain't very low to the ground already, and my back does not like bending over that much. But we got a bunch of roots up out of the ground. We have disted about 6 times trying to take. It's all new ground, so it was in trees and just ferns everywhere. So it's pH was in the 4s. I put 6 tons of lime on it. David, 3 tons of dolomitic lime, 3 tons of high cal lime. I figured that'd get me started. We worked it in with the disc, trying to level the field, and then we came back with I think it's a brilliant with a couple of rolling baskets behind it, that almost like a field cultivator for lack of a better word. And we got it somewhat level. Looks pretty good. Good enough that we run a drill across it now. We run an ESH drill. Have you ever seen an ESH drill?
No,
ESCH.
Nope, sure had.
They're made out of, I think, Pennsylvania or Ohio. Some Amish people make it, and I can tell you that's a fine drill. It's got 6-inch spacings too, and the way it meters is it's different. You need to go online and look at it. ESCH. But we're drilling. We took half rates one way and half rates 90 degrees from that, and perpendicular to it, and just trying to get good seed coverage. Playing with different seedings out there. Put a bunch of fertilizer out there. Finally got the the John Deere spreader going. That CFR or whatever that value was that I was asking you about turned out 100% to be the culprit. I don't get the stupid belt to move, but we got all of it spread. We're working here, watering hard as we can go. We need to rain. We got some scheduled for tomorrow and Saturday morning. So I hope we get every bit of it that they're calling for. Corn harvest in Georgia is right around the corner. A lot of people have harvested silage. There's some grain corn coming out. If I wanted to get in some 28, 29% moisture corn, I could have been there last week. I'm trying, the elevators are just being a pain in the butt about taking high moisture corn. So I'm kind of at their mercy, but we 100% hope to start shelling corn next week. I would have already liked to have had it out, but it is what it is. I'm kind of at the mercy of what the elevator is going to allow, and don't have enough capacity to dry it all. I got a capacity if it was dry to put it in the bins, but I just don't have enough capacity to dry it all. And beans is not too far away. We're watering this 108, 112 heat index. We're watering nonstop, just about to keep them, enough moisture to do their thing. David, they look pretty good. We'll see. I'm pessimistically optimistic.
Yep.
There's a lot of pods. I just hope they're going to be 2,000 seed per pound instead of 3,000 seed per pound. So we'll see. But there's a lot of pods on them. Plant health's good. We sprayed, I don't know, 3 or 4 fungicides on them, just trying to help with the respiration quality. So we've done some of that. Hopefully we won't have a bunch of green stem. If we got enough pods, it should suck the sap out and not blame it on the fungicide, right? So that's kind of what's going on in my world. I did get a picture from you earlier today. I guess at some point you were shelling some corn. Talk to me.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we did this year, we planted 75-day corn just to, as I talked about before, we could get early enough and plant some or double crop soybeans behind it. While I was away, Barley had something going on the first part of the week, and then day before yesterday, put the combine out there because he hand shelled some, and it was 24%. So you add about 2 points to it for the combine. Talk to the grain elevator, just like you're talking about, and they were willing to take that. No corn's coming in yet. They're bringing corn in bags that they store on the ground. So Barley started, and the goal was roughly that 250 bushel irrigated corn. Now, planted a hybrid that's not usual and customary, but we were hot and we've had a lot of sunlight. So I was hoping that was going to trigger it, but it just couldn't handle the heat. We did have a cool spell, like y'all recall, earlier in the spring, and I figured, well, that hybrid could handle the coolness, but it only made 12, 14 rows around. And Barley left me 1 truckload to pick. Because we just got our header back from getting rebuilt there at Marion Calmer's place at Calmer Cornheads, where they put in some, not super choppers, but the 10-knife chopping rollers. And boy, they sure did a good job. And, the gathering chains as well as the deck plate. So very pleased with that. And, Estes Concaves are sponsoring, and we had Estes Concaves in. So Barley had it dialed in, very little corn on the ground. The only place we saw corn on the ground is where we had a bunch of honeyvine milkweed. But yeah, I picked some corn. It was doing about 150 bushel average. So 100 bushels off. Barley, we're going to plant beans. And well, I say we're going to plant beans, Dowdy. Don't in my ear yet, but he put the beans in the soil warrior, and we're going to run them between the rows. Last time we did the experiment where we planted corn, I hear people talk about residue, and you and I, you green corn, residue goes away, but residue doesn't go away when you pick corn the same day. So
that's true.
We had some problems, so Barley decided, let's plant the soil warrior, and he'll run it between the rows, and trying to figure out what population to plant. But I'm like, Barley, we got some treated beans left over. Just put them all in that field. Let's get rid of them. So, so we might be 300,000. I don't know, Dowdy.
There you go.
But
I
we,
was going to say at this point in the game, you probably need to bump the populations up. I planted a lot of beans end of July, 1st of August at 210,000. So, um, you know, I can tell you with hot soils like this, if they haven't been in cold storage, you just about need that. I mean, because the bean, I don't know what it is. They don't like going in warm, hot, or I won't say warm soils, hot soils at this point. One thing we found, David, is we irrigated to cool the ground down significantly, and we would irrigate, 3/4 of an inch just to try to, and we'd chase them, the as we could get in the field behind that. That's what we would do, simply to help getting the stand. I mean, beans just don't like hot soils. I mean, it's up in 30 minutes if their vigor is there and they still stay viable, the seeds stay viable. They don't really like 90-degree temperatures on the soil temps.
yeah, well, that's not our problem. We're not North Dakota hot this week. We've been seasonally cool, nighttime temperatures in the mid to low 60s, which is great for grain field. We're in the 2100 GDU range on most of our corn. So, and then too, in the last 2 weeks, I hate talking about this when there's a lot of growers that have been expressing some drought, or we've had about 4 inches of rain a couple of weeks, and crop duster was spraying some nitrogen or spreading some nitrogen on some beans and some corn. And he sent me a video. We had a little bit of wind damage a couple evenings ago, some high winds and heavy rain, but just on one hybrid. Everything else irrigated was still standing, and I'll look at it tomorrow. I think it's going to come back up based on what how he was describing. So yeah, we're going to do the soil warrior thing. You mentioned fungicide. Now I've been traveling. I was in Illinois last week with the Century Innovation stuff with Pioneer, and I started up in Princeton, kind of went through the middle part of the state, and left out of Bloomington to fly home. And then I was in Minnesota, the southern part of Minnesota. Flew out of Rochester, flew into Minneapolis, and then I was in Minot. Dowdy, the areas I were in, Illinois got a good crop. There, you could clearly see some holes out there. But one of the growers in Minnesota said if they can get one more rain, they're probably going to have the best crop they've ever had. And now you get into the Dakotas, they've been struggling dry, hot and dry, hot and dry. They had a lot of moisture in June, but it's been dry. And beans look good too, wherever the corn. So clearly, when I look at total acre guys, we're with some of the best growers in the country. So you expect those things to look good, and do look good out there. But you mentioned fungicide. You sprayed 3 fungicides on your beans. And we hear a lot of talk about some of these other fertilizers. I know I do some potassium acetate a lot of times, and we pull tissue samples. Any little secrets any guys can glean from what that you see that you talk to outside of the total acre group?
Concerning what, David? On just helping with pod fill or pod development or pod set?
There's a lot of conversation about potassium acetate, how it's is it coming from the retailers trying to promote a product, or is it just coming from where people think that they have a problem? And it seems to be a big.
Well, David, I'll answer the question this way. If we post a big number, I'll let you know hot off the presses, there was no potassium acetate applied.
That's all I needed.
None. Everything went out up front. Now I have sprayed, KB, Smart KB.
Sure.
I've sprayed that multiple times, Brant Smart KB, just to give me some potassium. And I guess technically, I don't know if that's technically potassium acetate, but there ain't a lot of potassium in there. I've sprayed that 2 or 3 times, but you hear about people going with significant rates of potassium acetate. Most of my potassium went out with 0060 pre-plant. And now, David, I'll go ahead and tell you, they some fertilizer out there. It's serious, and I put a bunch of fertilizer out there because I understand the potash demand, for a 200 bushel bean crop. It's you got to have it, and the tissue samples have got to reflect enough supply so that you can set those pods and/or fill them. But I mean, David, we had some 1,000-pound plus spread rates in places. So, and it was all about base saturation, trying to get it up as high as we can get it economically. And then we did things to mitigate salt. So
that's where I was trying to bait you at. Not that I'm ever trying to bait you. And you just said it. When I was met with the growers and they're talking about some of these products, I'm like, yeah, you can make these applications. And yeah, there might be some little bit of benefit, but let's really think about what's going on. Let's fix our dirt first. And let's make sure we got our nutrition levels right for the crop that we're coveting. So let the roots do what they're supposed to do. So,
well, David, you forced me down this path in 2011 when you told me you was making freaking 15 passes across the field with a sprayer. And when people look at, how we contour farm with terraces and everything else, that just is not, that don't sound fun. It just doesn't work for me. I just couldn't stand doing it. And the bad part is you can spray, but you're going to get to do it again in about a week to 10 days, 2 weeks, because it's just a Band-Aid. You're not putting enough plant food out there to matter. So I went down the path, in hindsight, was smart, but it was, I guess, just luck. I went down the path, let's get high enough levels in the soil. And that's the approach I've taken. You still got to worry about leaching. You still got to get it in the soil and get it available. You got to worry about salt. You got to worry about all those things. But there are some things we can do to help, prevent that for sure. But David, making a bunch of passes across the field, foliar on beans, it's okay when you're just trying to stimulate to get to that next level. But to sustain 100 bushel beans, man, there is no reason you can't do that and do most of it. We're not talking contest stuff. We're talking production for breaking barriers. And for breaking barriers, for a guy that's wanting to make money, make ROI, 100 bushel beans is a natural target. That's where people want to be. Some people want to be at 80. It's all about the soil. Soil. And I take the same approach, but I'm all about building base saturation. Okay, to try to help sustain those really high yields in addition.
Yeah. And if you do that, now you're in a sandy soil environment with a lot of these growers out in the Midwest. If they can build their base at, and I've heard a lot of grow or some other folks, you build your base at and it's not going to leach out like you and I deal with. So they can spend some money. It's like putting money. And we've had some total acre guys doing exactly what you're doing. And when prices of the nutrients go up, they just start pulling from what that banking account. So that's worked out quite well.
Well, the next piece of that, though, David, too, the same ones that's got holding capacity are also the same ones that argue and say, well, we can't build our soils like you can. I think we proved that different in Nebraska.
Yeah.
You just got to buy a little fertilizer. And I don't mean buy a little fertilizer. You got to buy some dang fertilizer. You buy some fertilizer, and the late Patrick Gosh, fussed at us heavily because we were playing on his farm out there. And we look like geniuses in hindsight. We put a boatload of fertilizer there, and we got scorned by his brother, Mickey. He just, well, we don't take that much, and y'all going to kill some stuff. But when potash was being purchased at $300 and $400 a ton, and then the next 2 years it was $800 a ton, we looked like a genius. Prices went down. We already had it out there, and the yields went up. We were in good shape. So you can build base saturation on higher CECs. You just got to buy some fertilizer. I think those CECs were what, 14 to 16 or 13 to 15, whatever it was. And we took it from 1.5 to 2s and got it up to 4s and 5s in like 2 years. So it can be done.
Yeah. And well, yeah, but you opened up your wallet and, you mentioned, you talked about, you put 1,000 pounds out, for that and there with Mickey. So, well, Daddy, I know just in event of time, and we're really wanting to get Gabe on as well. It's my good pleasure to introduce Gabe Bathen from Pioneer, and got to know him over the years. And I know that as growers, particularly those that are involved with Pioneer, we know that Henry Wallace started this program in 1926. He started Pioneer and come a long way. Last week, Dowdy, I was in Princeton, Illinois, and Gabe, there was Terry Williams, who's a retired uh, breeder, started in 1969. One of the stories that he shared was when Henry Wallace started the first double cross. He said that in today's dollar, that bag of seed would be roughly $1,100. I don't want Pioneer to follow that. What a way to introduce you. Talk about $1,100 bag.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, we won't go there, but it's been exciting this year, getting a chance to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Pioneer and being involved with that, having 32 sites throughout, across the Midwest through the Corn Belt, giving us a chance because we know we can't get all of our customers out to Johnston to help us celebrate. So we're trying to bring that celebration out to the country. So getting a chance for us to be able to see era demos and throughout the corn from the history, we're getting out there from the start with Teosinte, basically first identified about 7,000 BC, then getting up into Reed's Yellow Dent, one of the outcrosses, that from one of the varieties that made the original 1926 hybrid and copper cross that Henry Wallace developed. Other things we're going to look at, 354, very popular product for Pioneer. But one of its notabilities or selection reasons was because it was harvestable with the combine. Those kind of things as we progress through from those years. Looking at 1151, the first Aquamax type product, and then all the way through 14830, the world record holder, on that side. But gives us the opportunity to be able to talk about some of the new technologies coming. Multi-disease resistance that's going to provide the herbicide tolerances that we're used to. But also disease resistances naturally within the plant. You're going to be looking at southern rust resistance. You're looking at northern corn leaf blight. You're looking at anthracnose, stalk rot, and gray leaf spot essentially being eliminated within that plant. We'll look at yield and yield stability, being able to take acres and be able to bring more consistency across acres on those, and some of the third generation type traits that'll be coming both above ground and below ground within those hybrids. Very exciting time.
Yeah, well, when we were Dowdy, when I had a chance to be in Princeton, Illinois, they had a big show plot corn that came out of Mexico, like a week. It looked like something that I didn't want. We're going along. There was a hybrid that Dowdy, I don't know that you ever did this. 394. Did you hear about? If Gabe, if I recall, they said that would have been the second largest seed company just outside of just Pioneer itself. Is that true?
That's pretty. Yes, that's true. So there's a lot of bags of a single hybrid out there. I know we want to diversify considerably more nowadays, but yes, that was a very big seed brand in its own. Yep.
Well,
How long was it around? 394.
I think it was almost 20 some years that thing was around.
Well, Gabe, that helped put y'all on the map. Y'all need to go back to some of that logic because y'all always got something better and something's always new coming. But about the time I get used to one, there's something new and it no longer is available. So about the time I get used to it, and I understand I had a lot of success with some hybrids, and at the end we had the weather changed and we were not as successful. But it 100%, these hybrids, there's a lot of technology that's come a long ways. I say that in jest to mess with you a little bit, but David, how many hybrids, about the time you get used to them, there's something better and it's replacing it.
Right. Well, they tell me every year there's something better. So, and we do it like, just for example, this year under irrigation, we have a couple of the new ones like 14-270, 75, but they, you just got comfortable with some of the new stuff last year, 18-216, 14-830. So I still plant some of those, and then we play with some of the new ones, even some of the other new ones like 14-395 or 10-300. I put them in some dry environment because just to make sure that we got some yield stability in there before I start going. But yeah, I would view Dowdy. It would be nice. 1197 stuck around right long time, and I was surprised, Gabe, that wasn't in y'all's show plot. 1197.
Yeah, I think since you surpassed that number with that 14,830, that became the bigger talk, and and it's also one of the hybrids that are still out there that's being utilized today. We're still using it a lot in Nebraska where we're trying to push yield, giving it that opportunity to kind of go, especially where we're going to manage for it.
Still running factory concaves or an upgrade that never lived up to the promise? It may be time for Estes XPR3 concaves. Built for operators who demand more from every pass, XPR3 helps improve threshing, separation, grain quality, and crop flow in real harvest conditions. This isn't just replacement, it's a serious performance upgrade. Estes Concaves, built for operators who don't settle. Visit EstesPerformanceConcaves.com and secure your set today.
Farmers, let's talk Pioneer brand 4-seed Enlist corn.
Yes, Coach!
Wow, love the energy. Okay, it clobbers corn rootworms and weeds for higher yields.
Yes, Coach!
And 4-seed Enlist delivers next-generation corn rootworm protection.
Yes, Coach!
Plus powerful exclusive genetics and flexibility to manage tough weeds.
Yes, Coach!
Now get out there and
grow!
I guess being a Pioneer agronomist is like being a coach.
Start your best year yet at pioneer.com/rootworm.
Gabe, we always talk about varietal and just technology. One thing in the South, I'm going to talk a little bit self-serving here. One thing that we need today, Leptra, Viptera, that technology is the best thing we can use to help with corn earworm. With everything, there becomes resistance over time. What's the status on that? Double pros were good, then triple pros were there, and now Leptra and Viptera, and it's not offered in all the hybrids, obviously. Where are we at on resistance to the corn earworms with that technology? Is it starting to show its ugly head, or where are we?
It's my understanding that this third gen, early 2030s time frame will include some earworm type products in there. So that's coming. It's right down the line here to be able to get that next generation of earworm control.
Well, Dowdy, you do really.
Are you hearing any resistance there on the Leptra or Viptera today?
Currently within my territory, no, I have not seen those issues because we're big into the Western bean cutworm territory here. We're doing those weekly counts where we've escalated considerably over the last 3 years across this eastern half of the state. And we've found that is by far the best management practice. I feel like where that's at, it's still holding its efficacy, but it's still not, we need to be able to protect that with best management practices that we need to do, or couple that with some other type of best management practice to be able to make that trait last as long as we can.
Well, Gabe, from a guy that sprays sweet corn, and we spray sweet corn every day for 6 days as the tassel's pushing, and then every other day till harvest. We're spraying napalm, multiple applications of multiple with each pass just to control earworms. I don't know if there's any other best management practices to help that's realistic. So if you got a secret, I'm listening, because I'm hoping this Viptera is going to stick around for a while, or at least there's something coming to replace it. Because that's why I said I was going to go a little self-serving here, because the Deep South, man, corn earworms will just wear you out. You'll lose 1.5 to 2 inches of the tip. And that's significant yield loss for sure.
Yeah. we deal with it too. And we got to, we realize that the Southeast and part of the deep south, we don't influence any decisions, but I know Pioneer's paying attention. But for us, if we don't have a litter of bacteria trait, we get that corn earworm infestation. And then I don't know, do you get a flight of blackbirds down there? Because we'll get blackbirds in here. Then it's like they can sense that worm. They find the worm, then they all of a sudden, here I'm thinking they're carnivores, but then they become vegetarians and start eating corn. So it's like, so that's one of our bigger struggles is the flight of the blackbirds. And Dowdy, I was just curious, do you get blackbirds down there as well?
Not really. We'll get them in the fall, but not in the heat of the summer. I mean, we really don't have a big problem with that down here. Now you'll see cowbirds in peanut fields and things like that where people have worm problems in hay fields and in different peanut fields. You can have a bunch of cowbirds in there, but not blackbirds. And I know what you're talking about with blackbirds. I've been a part of the Midwest, and especially with hybrids that don't have good shuck coverage, man, they'll wear them out. I mean, you really want the ear to tip back to make it harder for them to eat, or to tip over, not tip back, but to tip over, just to make it a little harder for them to eat. So, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get on the sidebar there. I just know with everything, it just seems like there's a shelf life on this technology for resistance. Mother Nature's going to win. And I hope we don't lose that trait anytime soon, because that is by far the best earworm protection we could ever hope for. I hope there's something replacing it that's equally as good as they build resistance. So Gabe, who's the man I need to talk to that's the head man with Pioneer about in the breeding side? Jeff Schussler used to give us some nuggets from time to time. And I think is Jeff still around? Did he retire?
He's retired, but I know he does a little bit of stuff, if I recall, Gabe, a little bit of contract work, because he came and spoke at their Total Acre event, a grower.
Well, what I'm going down the path is he shared some information with both of us, and David got him fired, so he couldn't talk to me anymore. I'm kidding, but I'm just wondering if there's who David has replaced him with. Who's Dave Schussler's replacement? So I can get some secrets that David's getting on the forefront and not being shared with me.
Well, I've got one. We're fortunate here. We've got kind of the Western Corn Belt breeding station here out of York, Nebraska, and I've got a local here that is in charge of that stuff, and he's the guy that would be the one to talk to for those little tidbits. So
don't give him David's number and give him mine. Tell him we need to have a conversation, and I'll make sure I give him all the credit for it.
Okay, sounds good. I'll let him know you're calling.
There you go. Tell me what's new and that you're excited about with Pioneer. I mean, you guys are a sponsor. Pioneer's been around a long time. Had a lot of success on my farms, had a lot of success on David's farm, obviously. David, you got your Pioneer underwear on today? I mean, I know you pretty much John Deere today. I understand. I know it's one of the two, I'm sure. But just what are you guys excited about, Gabe? I mean, I know with every day being an agronomist and sales agronomist and in sales and everything else, you believe in new things that's coming. What should the farmer be excited about from Pioneer's perspective to keep them in the front part of the cutting edge, the leading edge, so to speak? The bleeding edge, as David likes to call it.
Yes. Well, I think really we're on the forefront of, that the progression, utilizing the analytical tools that are that are at our fingertips, whether it be genetic analysis, and pairing proper hybrids with others, being able to find those markers within the plants to be able to bring things like MDR naturally, the multi-disease resistance, and put it into the plant, the yield and yield stability, and have them be naturally occurring genes that are out there, that if I can find a germplasm from Africa and one from central Nebraska that happens to work to make those things happen, those are the great things really right now that I'm excited about, that bring stability to the farm, and consistency. we're always trying to push that edge when it comes to hybrids and the yield progression as we go, but also the ease of harvest. What pays the bills? It's what gets into the bin. And if we can keep it as clean and standing out there as long as we can, that makes it harvestable and makes you profitable. That's what I'm excited about as we move forward. So those types of things that we're utilizing.
Larry,
Well,
Gabe, you mentioned sustainability, and y'all have come a long way with that. And when we were in Minot, North Dakota, we had lunch there with the Total guys, and Pioneer was kind enough to sponsor lunch. And during that lunch event, I had a chance to meet Larry Lunder, and they're out there. And before he got started to talk, the group had experienced some issues with, as we all know, the worst thing about corn harvest is down. And I said, all right, some of these guys have experienced corns going down, particularly this season, because they've had some really big winds, some 100-mile-an-hour winds went through there and turned some pivots over. And he shared that a lot of the new, particularly out there, they have strengthened that plant a great deal. So I know that's the forefront of y'all. And when I hear Dowdy talk about things that, hey, when you're trying to pick a hybrid, it's got to stand. And, yield stability, standability, I think goes hand in hand on that.
I think the big debate is now, do you want it to bend or do you want it to break? That's what we deal with a lot of times when it comes to those things. My territory covers a lot from north to south. And so no matter what, when it's coming from west to east, at some point in my territory, I'm always going to have a wind event from year to year, but it's a matter of, okay, timing, what's happening, and the thing, what we're looking at now and analyzing, okay, if it blows, do we want it to break or do we want it to willow or kind of bend over? We've gone to that extreme with the Boreas, our man-made wind machine out there to be able to analyze those things, which is fascinating to see go through the field. But, trying to go through, analyze those things and determine where that point is, is it, should it stand in 90-mile-an-hour winds or are we better off with it snapping, in those pieces? And we've gone more to, the plant is more forgiving. It will bend over and it will stand back up and make it harvestable in a lot of situations, depending upon time frame and of course on that. So,
well, y'all came up the first time we were playing new hybrids. I think it was 1977, and we had some what y'all willow, and that was a term to me. We put willow trees around here, so see how the branches roll down and bend, and so that was. I understand now, and looking at that score, I don't know if I see the willow score in the book, but I do hear terminology being used. And
yeah,
you ask questions to some of the other corn companies, and they give you that deer in the headlight look. What do you? So
that was a new terminology to me as well, on that side of it. And but it's interesting, utilizing technologies we have today to be able to analyze that after we've gone through and blown the field, using the LiDARs and those kind of things with drone technologies to count whether it's a break or a willow or those kind of things. It's amazing.
Well, and then I get some things outside of corn that I just wasn't exposed to. How much canola y'all have? Clearly, we grow a lot of soybeans over here, so we're keen on the list beans. But the canola, and that was big, and the sunflowers. And there were some things. Just man, I don't think those.
Yeah, and and we're getting too far south where I'm at. I don't get very well versed on those types of products on that side for us. But yeah, we've got an expansive lineup there on that side. And I suppose when you got into North Dakota, you probably ran into a lot more of that, those types of crops.
And I share with people I'm put on this earth to do two things: bring people to Jesus Christ and to control the duck population. And when I corn and sunflowers, just controlling wildlife, Dowdy. And I know you had deer ranch, and my feeling on deer, they could all perish and I wouldn't lose a sleep. But
well, David, that is so cruel and unusual for you to say something like that. When they eat my crops, I don't like it either. But when they're eating an intended crop and growing a big rack, and I got a chance to have a hunter be happy, then that's a little different situation, so to speak. So Gabe, you need to bring your butt out here to Georgia or to Michigan and let's go kill a big buck. We've got a bunch of big whitetails. There's no doubt about it. David, we have been driving genetics for the last, and this kind of ties in what we're talking about. Genetics has come a long way, but big whitetails is all about genetics too. And man, I can tell you, I ride through the preserve, and these are the bucks we kick out because genetically on paper, you just say, they're good, but I think the ones I'm keeping are better. And I think that's the same logic that Pioneer has used over the years. They're breeding, they think it's good competitively next to the competitor, it's good, but they always try to advance things or preserve things that's better. David, the whitetails is the same way. And man, I ride through here and all. I mean, we got bucks out here that's 3 years old. It's going for 270 to 370, 400. We got a yearling that's going to probably go over 200 this year, typical. And so it's fun. I'm enjoying it. I enjoy all that. But Gabe, you needed to bring your butt to Michigan and let's go sit in the deer stand and talk shop and shoot a big whitetail.
My 14-year-old boy would love that. So he'd be in heaven. So
I know a guy, and I keep trying to get Dave to come out here and bring Tassel and grandson out here. I don't know why that hadn't happened yet, but Acres. I don't know why that hadn't happened yet, but at some point, David, you got to get to northern Michigan and let me show you what it's like to. You ain't got to come when there's a lot of snow. I know you get enough cold weather over in the East Coast, a little bit north of me, but you need to bring your butt out here. It's been fun for sure.
Yeah. Well, Gabe, I know next week I'm going to find myself in your neck of the woods there in York, Nebraska at your Century Innovation event. And so for growers that might be, well, I guess I should say this is going to get aired this weekend. So I was getting ready to make an open invite. But what are growers going to see that participate in it?
So everybody's going to get a chance here to get through, our entire site here at York. We call it the agronomy farm. I'm in a great situation that I've got about 4 acres here that I've been able to cultivate for the last 5 years while I've been here with Pioneer. And we're going to see anywhere from the 100 years of ear demo from the corn, 50 years of Pioneer soybeans this year. We'll get to talk to corn breeders. We're going to get to talk to soybean breeders, and we're going to get to talk to agronomists, throughout the Pioneer territories of the eastern part of the state. Give us a chance. Our opportunity is at this point is to help you finish this crop off, and what can we do to influence yield from this time forward. So we get a message on some of that stuff and also pick up a good meal. And some of them will be fortunate enough to be able to talk to you as well at some of those sessions. So looking forward to that.
Gabe, what's the disease report for Iowa and Nebraska and the out west? I heard I was in Iowa a couple weeks ago, and I mean it was clean as a whistle. But when I left, they said they had found a little bit of southern rust in parts of the state. What's the current status on that?
Right now, we're just really seeing a smattering, and it's like single lesions of southern rust. It's really, really hard to find right now, especially having done, kind of majority are doing a standard practice of a minimum of VT application of fungicide, which would have happened, that second week or that middle of that second week of July there for us. So we're starting to run out of residual in some of those instances. I would say most of our pressure right now is coming from tar spot. That has creeped up from the ground up to just below the ear leaf at this point. The best fields that we're seeing right now are those that got sprayed in that V12 to V16 timeframe with a good product early at that point, because that has kind of held that off a little better before the inoculation happened, and then followed up with that VT. So I feel like those that got that early one on this year are ahead of where we waited till that VT, despite those lesser pressures. And I would say that's further to my south is where we're having more pressure with the tar spot than it is in my northern territory, 4 counties north. So that has been more of the pressures. Otherwise, very, very little otherwise when it comes to gray leaf spots. We saw some really early northern corn leaf blight, probably a little bit more heavy than we typically have there. Very little gosses to report right now. We have had a decent amount of hail around, at least to smatter things up, which we would have expected, especially on our corn acres where, 50% of our corn that is out there is going to be corn on corn around here. Not seeing the gosses wilt, seeing an exceptional year on bacterial leaf streak though. Something that I know I've heard some responses from others further to the east that they're kind of seeing it for the first time. We're dealing with that in Iowa, maybe for the first time. But we've been seeing that for probably 10 years now. And I think this year it's kind of reared its ugly head a little worse than it has in the past here. So we're kind of all over the board, but I really feel like we're very clean, very fortunate. We're not nearly where we were at disease pressure wise a year ago at this time. Because there were places that were dead at this point if they didn't have a fungicide application as of August 1st in 25.
Yeah, David and I did the crop tour last year, and I can assure you, it was a train wreck out there. And I hope people didn't get amnesia and say, well, we won't have it this year. I mean, I hope they were proactive enough. We had guys spraying as late as Dent that was talking about 40 to 60 bushels by making applications that late, Gabe. Southern rust don't play.
No.
The bad part is we deal with it almost every year. Now, this year we were blessed. We really didn't have a lot of pressure. I kept telling the guys in Iowa, I said, look, if your jet stream's coming out of the Delta, you better get your tail ready to spray. If you get any kind of, I don't say jet stream, but if some kind of upward lift coming out of the Delta, coming up your direction for moisture flow and precipitation, I said, you better make dang sure you're on top of it and ahead of the game on the fungicide, because that's where a lot of the rust is going to have to come from this year to affect the Midwest. The Southeast just was not bad until it didn't matter. It came in really, really late. Part of that's because we didn't get a hurricane coming out of the Gulf, David, out of the Caribbean, blowing stuff in from the islands in southern Florida. But all in all, southern rust for us was moderate. We had some in the area, but it didn't show its ugly head till late. So I still sprayed twice, but the Midwest needs to pay attention. Hopefully they hadn't got amnesia from last year, because disease absolutely is a robber for sure.
Yeah. So Dowdy, before for the guys that are on the East Coast, like Carolinas, Virginia, and then you get out to Delmarva and even up into Pennsylvania, are you seeing enough rust where it's been moved north? I haven't heard any big reports of it in North Carolina yet.
David, I haven't really heard any people complaining about rust on the East Coast and the Southeast. It's not been something that's normally crap. In June, we'd have been spraying like a son of a gun, and a lot of guys pushed it. And they sprayed a tassel because that's usual and customary, but we'd had to spray at least 1 to 2 more times post tassel, and that just didn't have to happen this year due to disease. A lot of the corn acres, obviously for silage in Georgia, all that's well gone at this point, and beans are planted behind it. But I think the Delta had a fair amount, and it's like you're saying, Dave, we don't plant enough acres to matter in the scheme of things. But when it comes to disease and disease pressure, we have got a bona fide education over the years about how much yield it takes away and how much yield it robs from us. So I would encourage growers, especially in the Midwest, don't take southern rust lightly. I've seen it come in and take over. Now, high humidity, hot conditions is not an environment that it's going to take and thrive. But if there's plenty of moisture and it's hot and humid and it's raining a lot, versus being dry, get ready. That's a perfect storm environment for it just to explode and grow and exacerbate and on a big scale.
Yeah, but Dowdy, as we both know, and Gabe knows, when it's right for rust, it's right for rust. When it's not right for rust, it's right for tar spot. So the thing is, get out there, make applications. If you're, we can't afford to let a crop just melt down, and particularly in today's economy, and the crop protection stuff we have today, right, and addressing it. And I know whether you got a ground rig, airplane, or drones. How many times did we see streak in the fields last year too? So let's make sure we're doing a good job with the applications. And So Gabe, I see you jumping around, so I guess you're ready to go outside.
No, it's muggy. I'm enjoying the air conditioning right now. It's been a long 10 days here in Nebraska. We ran into, I think, Saturday and Sunday up heat index upwards of 120 at times here. So been pretty average during the day, 115 to 120 heat index wise, with temperatures, in that 94, 95 range. So you can tell the humidity's there and very little wind.
Well, see you jump around. I see Dowdy looking out the window like, man, I need to open up this door down there. I think one more route they missed, so he feels like he's got to go get that route up. But
no, the roots we've done with them. They're gonna have to just rot over time, and the mower's gonna take care of them because I'm over it. So, well, David, I'll keep you posted. Gabe, it's always good. I've seen you many times. I suck with names. I'm not very good, but when I saw your face, I said, I know that guy.
Yeah.
We've been around each other enough over the years. We appreciate Pioneer and their support. Stay tuned. Lord willing, we'll harvest some corn next week. Hopefully it'll be something that's worth talking about and worth selling. I got a big bar to try to even post a number big enough that David don't laugh at me and don't say, why'd you enter that in the contest? What were you thinking? Nonetheless, we're getting ready to start harvest. Hopefully, Lord will bless us and we'll get it out of there. If you look at the forecast, it's not friendly. It's showing 60-70% chance of rain every day next week. So I hope they're wrong. We're able to get some corn and get it out and move on. But we appreciate Pioneer being a part of this. Y'all have supported Total Acre for years. You have supported David and I, on the TV show, and we appreciate you supporting us on Breaking Barriers in addition. So thank you for that.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. Look forward to seeing you guys again and have a blessed, bountiful harvest for you guys.
Amen. And Dad, it's always a good pleasure. And we don't want to forget about got Estes Concaves in that comment run. And we always get in a hurry. So let's make sure that we stay focused on what we're doing. My brother says safety third, because the first one is don't scratch the truck, and then don't spill the beans are 1 and 2, and then safety third. So Dowdy, great being part of the podcast with you today, and stay tuned, and everybody be God bless. Thank you.
Y'all be safe. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon for another new episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, all episodes are available on Farm Journal TV and anywhere podcasts are found.